I grew up in Detroit, Michigan. Yeah. And it was really interesting because I didn't know anyone who identified as homosexual, gay, lesbian, trans. I didn't know that I knew anyone with that identification until I got, I think, in probably middle school, when I moved to Los Angeles, straight into Silver Lake. And I recognized that all of my neighbors were in same sex relationships, and it didn't mean a whole lot to me. It didn't matter for me. I was kind of, my mother was very young. My mother had me after she was 18. And so I just kind of met people and I've always just taken them for who they are. We moved to Mid Wilshire and I actually fell into gangs in Mid Wilshire. And so it was this culture. It was the height of the crack epidemic. I graduated high school in 1990. So it was the height of the crack epidemic. You know, my friends would be in on the news for shooting at each other. You know, I had a year in my life where 15 to 25 of my friends were lost to violence. And I was like 14, 15 years old. And so the reality was that for me, Los Angeles has always been a place where, depending on where you are, your perspective is just very different. I became a case manager for homeless individuals in transitional housing and down in Skid Row. And I was given a case of a gentleman who was living with HIV. He was about 50-year-old black man, and he was having indiscriminate relationships with all kinds of women who looked like me. And so I just wanted to know what to say to the women when they tested positive, because I just assumed they would. I had a gentleman who came from the Middle East who tested, and I asked him why he wanted to test. I didn't take into consideration the cultural difference. So I didn't see myself as hierarchically, like I didn't see his patriarchy. And he came in the room, and I asked him about his previous sexual partners and sexual relationships, and he got angry. And he told me I had no right to ask the question. And so I said, well, okay, since you don't want to disclose that for me, then let's talk about your intravenous drug use. Right? And then it was like, how dare you? Finally, I tested him. At the end of the conversation, he said, I'm only testing because I spent time around black people in county jail. And I said, let me give you this test and get you the hell out of here. I tested him. He came back positive. So a week later, he came in, and I had to tell him that he was living with HIV. So he actually had me physically backed into a corner, like yelling at me in my face, like that I was a liar and that all women were horrible and that I was a whore, and just totally lost his temper on me. And I said, really all I'm trying to do is help you get medical attention. People just don't want to know. And they'll go to any lengths not to know, and they'll be in their illness, and you have to roll with the punches. I had a woman who was a sex worker, and she was ashamed to tell me she was a sex worker. And I had to say to her, all women have sex. Well, all women who are not virgins. Right? And just explain to her that there was a reason why she was choosing her profession, and it was not my place to judge. She tested. She came back positive as well. And only to find out she knew. I knew it. And you're like, yeah. Okay. So now that you know, what can we do about that? Got her some hotel stays, got her off the street for a couple weeks, got her involved in a clinic, sat with her through some really intensive crying, got her reunified, with her children. She just disappeared. She just stopped coming in eventually. But, I think my job in the beginning, my job was always to just be present. When I came into HIV, we were concerned people who were living with HIV or impacted by HIV who just wanted to be there. Our education didn't matter. Our position didn't matter. We just really wanted to be there. And now people are more informed, more educated, and dedicating their profession and careers to battling this disease. People are not dying like they used to. We're not leaving that candle. I remember I worked in one place and we kept a candle that was lit all the time because so many people would die. We would just come and write people's name on the board, you know. That doesn't happen anymore. People can actually live in HIV and see the impacts of the determinants around them, the homelessness, the poverty, they can see all of those other things. At one time, we were just so narrowly focused on this thing, and now we're able to expand our point of view and look at what influences all that. I have optimism that people keep trying and keep fighting and keep showing up.